Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and is Blizzard teasing the next Diablo 4 class right before our very eyes with a rare in-game event? Also, Path of Exile's newest expansion just launched, bringing mercenaries into the game, as well as tens of thousands of players filling queues to log in. And if you're looking to be one of those players, I got a few guides I'll refer you to help you get started. We'll also talk about Stellar Blade's massive launch on PC, some eyebrow-raising pricing from Microsoft, and the biggest console launch in history, the Switch 2. I'll also rapid fire through some of the best new trailers and surprise announcements that you might have missed over the past week, including Clockwork Revolution, the Expanse Osiris Reborn, Lies of P Overture, and yes, even a game about boxing puppets. We'll dive into all that, but as a reminder, ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. But before we go on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Incogni. You ever wonder how you get spam calls, texts, and emails? It's because thousands of companies are collecting, aggregating, and trading your personal data. You have the right to demand that a data broker deletes whatever personal info they may have about you. But tracking down and contacting all those companies, who's got that kind of time? That's where Incogni comes in. It's a service that reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your data be removed, and deals with any pushback they may get. And you'd be surprised at how much of your personal info may be out there. Not just your full name, email, and phone number, but also things like your employment history, your home address, your relatives, maybe even your social security number. Here's my dashboard. You can see that I've got 7 requests left in progress, and 130 have been completed. I signed up with Incogni a couple of years ago now, when I started getting spam texts all the time. I don't know if it started because I signed up to some store's loyalty card, or maybe because one of those many LinkedIn data breaches. Maybe it was from online shopping on the wrong website. All I know is that after using Incogni, I barely get spam messages anymore. Incogni now also has added a family plan that lets you extend your coverage to up to 4 additional members, as well as an unlimited plan, which introduces Incogni's custom removals feature. With that, you can point to any website where your personal info is visible, and one of Incogni's privacy agents will take care of the rest. So, take back your data, stop the spam, go to incogni.com/Rhykker and use code Rhykker to get an exclusive offer of 60% off. That's incogni.com/RHYKKER and use code Rhykker, or click the link below to take your personal data off the market. Starting off with some Path of Exile news. The Secrets of the Atlas expansion for PoE 1 went live yesterday, and its popularity was immediately evident by the big queues and difficulty some folks were having getting in and playing. A peak of 180,000 playing on Friday, likely to be passed this weekend, and preliminary player reports seem to be positive, with the mercenaries being well received. A reminder, folks, to get or update your loot filter. Filterblade.xyz is a website to go to. Even if you're a new player checking out PoE, a loot filter is mandatory for a good experience. If you haven't jumped in yet and you're wondering what build to start the league with, some powerful and beginner-friendly options include the Explosive Concoction Slayer, the Poison Concoction of Bouncing Slayer, and the king of all simple league starter builds, the Righteous Fire Chieftain. Content creator Pox has been making guides for this build for years. He is the expert, and even though Righteous Fire has, well, the single target has taken a hit this patch, it's still an excellent build. Fast map, clear when you get to mapping, very tanky. Limited button presses, it's probably the easiest build to play in the game. And even though it might take you a while to take down bosses, you're going to have the survivability to get through the fights. Lots of life regen. Otherwise, if you're feeling more adventurous, Wave of Conviction got a huge buff this patch by ways of getting the Nova tag attached to it. The new Bladefall of Charthus gem is basically a physical-based Righteous Fire build if you want to try that out. Dark Pact of Charthus has base damage ignite equal to 100% of your life pool on its big hit, so that's kind of huge. An intelligence-based Heavy Strike build may even be possible. Then amidst all the reworked or buffed uniques, the Facebreaker gloves now grant up to 1,000% more unarmed physical damage, up from 800%, so that could be something to chase and build around. But overall, if you want more league starter ideas, Redditor Mr. Melt Jr. has this handy and humorous flowchart to help you pick something. Link will be in the description. But as for the new content, the league mechanic, the mercenaries, Now, there's a system attached to them called Renown, and no, not like Diablo 4 Renown. Renown is designed to basically encourage you to actually engage with the mechanic. You'll find a mercenary in every zone, right? You'll want to hire some mercenaries, you'll want to steal gear from other mercenaries, and you'll want to banish some mercenaries to stop them from showing up for a while. And to do any of these three things, you need to defeat the mercenary in a duel first. Well, naturally, the way a lot of people would have played this would have been to look at the mercenary, check their gear, their stats, and then ignore the mercenary. Ignore most of the mercenaries, right? So in order to prevent that gameplay loop of effectively ignoring the mechanic 90+% of the time, the devs added the Renown system. So every time you defeat a mercenary, you gain 1 rank of Renown up to a cap of 3 Renown. And each point increases your chances of encountering infamous mercenaries. These are elite mercenaries who have better gear on them. They always have a unique item equipped, and they're the only source of new infamous modifier items. So you'll want to have high renown most of the time. Now, once you've inspected a mercenary to see what's on it, if you do not duel it, if you just leave, then you will lose a rank of renown. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that mercenaries do contribute to difficulty scaling. They're sort of treated like having another player in your party, right? When you have another player with you, difficulty rises as the monsters have more health, and you also get more loot. With this patch, the devs have also made changes to how multiplayer scaling works. So with regards to loot, now rather than just scaling item rarity with more players, parties get more currency and gold drops, while scaling down less desirable loot like just random armor and weapons. You're not going to be flooded with a bunch of more garbage loot. You're going to get a bonus to the loot you actually care about. Uniques, however, they do scale properly by player count, so you're more likely to get unique drops. Also, back to mercenaries, anointed passives and keystones from gear actually do work on mercenaries. So yeah, you can turn your mercenary into a powerhouse if you know how to gear them right. Also, link skills can target allied mercenaries, and yes, that means what you think it means. Now, once you eventually make an alt, you will not be able to take your high-level mercenary and put him on a new character. Mercenaries will not follow a character that is more than 20 levels lower than them. Now, with a new pause feature in PoE 1, another situation that pauses the game in addition to, bringing up any full screen or the game detecting lag, another situation will be interacting with syndicate members. This league also brings the Settlers town back. It starts off pre-built, no having to build it. You will still need, of course, to hire and pay your workers, but the max worker level now is 5. So if you're diving in and you want a simple campaign cheat sheet in diagram form, this old reference here by Badger is still very good, though I'd recommend this one more for people who have already played the campaign and are at least passingly familiar with it. If you want a holistic one guide to rule them all, Fixfaxer here has this master spreadsheet with campaign leveling details and just a lot more stuff in general. If you want a campaign guide to help you optimize your journey through the campaign by understanding map layouts, then Cyclone has this guide here. If you're a new player looking for direction on where to go in the end game, or if you're a returning player looking for a refresher, Stevie, I think is how it's pronounced, made this guide over here that lays things out very nicely. And if you want to know everything there is to know about ROG crafting, Chalice has made this in-depth guide. And if you don't know what ROG crafting is, then you don't need this guide. Oh, and a PSA for returning players, the bandit rewards changed at some point. So do be sure you don't just autopilot through them, kill them all without thinking. You could be making suboptimal choices. Bandits only give 1 passive point now. Oh, Path of Exile is going to be running Twitch drops through June 29th. There's going to be 2 cycles, week 1, week 2. Week 1 ends on the 21st, so there's 2 different drops to get. You can also get drops to the Support a Streamer program. You do that by buying 2 subs for a streamer. Unfortunately, Prime subs don't count. And as a reminder, all the PoE 1 cosmetics are going to eventually make their way to PoE 2. We also learned this week from an interview between Mark Roberts and Sporks Kita that the Spectre resummoning feature from PoE 2 will make its way to PoE 1 eventually. And not just for Spectres, for all permanent minions. He also wants to experiment with asynchronous trade, where you visit an offline player's hideout to buy items that he has listed on the trade website. This would be huge. His main concern, though, is bots overrunning this, so he wants to make sure that if they do this, they got the proper measures in place to ensure it's not a bot apocalypse. But what do you folks think? Have you tried out the new expansion? How are you liking it? Sound off in the comments. On to some Diablo news. We'll start by saying Diablo 2 Resurrected is kicking off Ladder Season 11 on June 20th. Nothing new, just a ladder reset. If you do want to experience new content in Diablo 2, then I encourage you to check out the fan-driven Project Diablo 2 mod, which is coincidentally also on its 11th season. The only unfortunate thing with PD2, Project Diablo 2, is that it only works with the original Diablo 2, not with Diablo 2 Resurrected. They do, however, have an upscaling filter to make the game look a little bit better. Meanwhile, Diablo 4's anniversary event goes on. We spoke about it last week. It's really just some free cosmetics to claim, and in that context, it's fine. But it's kind of being marketed as an event, and as an event, it is a disappointing event. There's no gameplay, there's really nothing. They should just call it anniversary rewards, right? You log in, get your anniversary rewards, bingo bango, done. That properly sets up expectations, no disappointment. But look, here's an email that I got saying, don't miss the Diablo 4 anniversary event, with this gorgeous graphic that says Diablo 4 anniversary event. So it's no surprise that I'm seeing comments from people saying, hey, this event sucks, when there's no actual event. But moving on beyond that, there's something I want to share with you folks, and it's maybe nothing at all. Or it may just be something. Possibly a hint at the next class. And I gotta thank Redditor Taze Triforce for posting about this. So what he noticed was that at 2 a.m. Eastern every night, allegedly, the Burnt Knights, this group here, show up at this spot in Kyovashad. It's right next to the place with the NPC who shouts, "You, Wanderer, I know what you are." Yep, right between him and the notice board, it's where they're supposed to show up. And the notice board has a symbol of the Knight's Penitent on it, and it reads, "Notice, at the start of a new month, Reverend Mother Prava will hold a sunrise sermon in celebration of the Divine Advent, the day Father Inarius returned to the world." So it's just religious mumbo-jumbo for the Knight's Penitent, who were effectively the new paladins of the Cathedral of Light in service of Inarius. Now, I should say that I did go log in myself at 2 a.m. this morning, and I did not see the Knights, the Burnt Knights there. So I can't corroborate this myself. If you'll remember from the campaign in one of the most badass cinematics ever, the Knight's Penitent, led by Prava, went to Hell and fought the forces of Hell, and then when Inarius was killed, most of them were wiped out. Now, some of those knights survived and escaped. They were badly injured. Prava was one of them, but apart from her, there was Urivar, who we meet in Vessel of Hatred, and he forms a splinter religion, the Burnt Knights, because he thinks that Prava is just full of crap, she's failed, and they need more extreme measures to stamp out evil. Now, of course, we defeated Urivar in Vessel of Hatred, since he was a crazy zealot who was trying to kill us, but the Burnt Knights are still around, apparently, and they are not inherently evil or bad guys per se. You know, they ultimately serve the light, and they want to destroy evil. And again, we know that Prava survived, and the story, if I remember correctly, seemed to suggest a redemption arc for her was coming. Maybe she'll take command of the Burnt Knights and make them less, I don't know, douchebaggy. But anyways, most people expect that some kind of paladin-like class will be the next class coming in Expansion 2. I have a full video here going over my Expansion 2 predictions, but a paladin-type class who may wield a polearm and shield is one of them. And what do we see here with these Burnt Knights in Kyovashad? Polearm and shield. So why can these Burnt Knights only be found at a specific time of the day? Is Blizzard trying to draw our attention to them? Are they teasing the next class right before our very eyes? Are they connected to something else? Is this maybe somehow related to the next step in the cow level? Or is this just random nonsense with no meaning at all? What do you folks think? Sound off in the comments. Then over in some Nintendo news, the Nintendo Switch 2 has smashed records worldwide, selling over 3.5 million units in just 4 days. To put that into perspective, the original Switch sold 2.7 million in its first month. The PlayStation 5, it took a full month to reach 3.4 million. The Switch 2 did that in 4 days. That's not just a good launch, that's the biggest console launch of all time. Japan alone accounted for nearly 1 million of those sales, setting a new record for the country's biggest console launch ever, blowing past the previous title holder, the PS2. Globally, the Switch 2 even matched the estimated lifetime sales of the Steam Deck in just 4 days. So how do they pull this off? Well, a combination of massive demand, strong stock availability. Remember how hard it was to get a PS5 around its launch? So they just had enough units to actually supply to meet the demand. Also, just a super smooth launch. There were no major day one issues, no widespread reports of the hardware failure. And again, if you wanted a Switch 2, you could actually get your hands on one. The Switch 2 launched alongside Mario Kart World, which is doing pretty heavy lifting as the system's only major first-party title. And it's delivering with a top critic average of 87 out of 100, 98% of critics recommending it, and solid player ratings at 90% on OpenCritic. The game's doing excellently. The game's new Knockout Tour mode, as well as its strong performance on the new hardware, are both being praised. Opinions do seem to be kind of mixed on the free roam mode. Nintendo expects to sell 15 million units of the Switch 2 by March 2026. And if the first 4 days are any indication, that might actually be a conservative estimate. They're also projecting 45 million in software sales and a 63% bump in net sales over that period. So yeah, they're feeling confident. Now, one minor bummer for Nintendo fans, the live-action Legend of Zelda movie has been delayed from March 2027 to May 2027. This is to give the team extra time to make the film as good as it can be. This is according to Zelda co-creator Shigeru Miyamoto. Although, if you think the movie's going to be a dumpster fire, then I guess this is good news. Generally, movie adaptations of video games are terrible, but in this case, Zelda's co-creator is involved, so that should inspire confidence. But what do you folks think about the Switch 2? Is it overhyped? Have you gone a hold of one? If so, what do you think of it? Are you holding out for more titles? Sound off in the comments. Then in some The Outer Worlds 2 news, the game is officially launching on October 29th, and it's coming at a whopping price of $80. That makes it the first Xbox Game Studios title to launch at $80. Now, Microsoft had previously said that it planned to raise prices for games, consoles, controllers, and headsets, notably not its Game Pass. So it should be no surprise to be seeing $80 games coming from Xbox. But I did not expect The Outer Worlds 2 to be the first title to launch at that price. When Mario Kart World was revealed to be $80, everyone lost their crap, right? But Mario Kart has decades of fandom to be able to pull off a move like that. And this is not a criticism of The Outer Worlds, right? It's a great game, but it's simply nowhere near Mario Kart levels of success and popularity. Released in 2019, The Outer Worlds was a solid game for $40, but I don't think it would have held up as well as an $80 purchase. Although I guess you can say, if The Outer Worlds 1 was $40, then mathematically The Outer Worlds 2 should be double that, right? $80? It's how the math works. Now, one thing worth remembering here, the devs, Obsidian, likely had zero input on the price point. This was almost certainly entirely a Microsoft decision. And I'm getting the distinct impression that Microsoft knows that an $80 price point will be unpalatable to most of their core target audience. And I suspect that this is a part of Microsoft's plan to push more and more Game Pass subscriptions, since The Outer Worlds 2 will be available on Game Pass on launch day. So why spend $80 to play The Outer Worlds 2 when you can just pay $15 to play a whole bunch of different games for a full month, including The Outer Worlds 2? Now, I've long said that Microsoft's main motive isn't greed. It's not like Activision. I mean, okay, as a corporation, yes, it's motivated by greed, for sure. But in my opinion, they're willing to make less money in the interest of achieving their true goal, which is omnipresence. Microsoft wants you playing Microsoft-owned games through Microsoft-owned services on Microsoft-owned platforms. They just want you to be part of the Microsoft ecosystem no matter what you are doing. You are engaging with Microsoft products. Now, as for the game itself, the devs have stated that The Outer Worlds 2 will have a less silly, darker tone than the original game. Game director Brandon Adler said in an interview with PC Gamer that the first game's humor could be a little one note, so this time they're going for something still absurd but with more range. He added, quote, "We still wanted to make sure that we had a lot of the same feeling as the first, and so when players are interacting with the different factions, they also get to see that absurd humor that comes through. Hopefully it's a little bit less silly and a lot more absurd." So what do you folks think? Are you excited for The Outer Worlds 2, or did the price tag put you off? Then in other news, Stellar Blade just became PlayStation's biggest single-player launch ever on Steam, blowing past every other first-party title, single-player, that they've released on PC. The game launched on PC on June 11th, and it immediately rocketed past expectations. We're talking 183,000 plus concurrent players at its peak, and as this weekend is rolling out, I'm sure the number is going to go even higher. For comparison, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut previously held the PlayStation single-player record on Steam with a peak of around 77,000. God of War and Spider-Man Remastered peaked at 70,000 and 60,000. Stellar Blade more than doubled these numbers, and the reception has been just as impressive as the player counts, with over 1,000 user reviews and an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam. Players are praising the combat, the optimization, the music, the aesthetics. All right, moving on, folks. Over the past week, we've had a number of game shows that resulted in a flurry of trailer releases, so let's cover some of the highlights quickly. We got the announcement trailer for The Expanse, Osiris Reborn. This is a narrative-driven third-person action RPG set in the gritty, politically tangled universe of The Expanse. You'll play as a Pink Walker security mercenary who, while just trying to enjoy a little shore leave on Arrow Station, ends up smack in the middle of a deadly lockdown and a solar system-wide conspiracy. So, you know, typical Tuesday in The Expanse universe. You'll be able to create your own character, Martian, Earther, Beltalota, whatever. Take command of the most advanced ship in the entire system. You'll gather a crew with their own motives, backstories, and strong opinions about your leadership. And your choices will directly affect their loyalty to you. For me, the most surprising and impressive thing here is that this is being developed by Owlcat Games. Yes, the Owlcat Games, known for being the modern masters of the CRPG, with titles under their belt like Pathfinder Kingmaker, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, and the upcoming Warhammer 40k Dark Heresy. I'm starting to see a lot of parallels actually to old BioWare. BioWare started off with Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, right? Turn-based RPGs, and they ultimately progressed to non-turn-based RPGs like Knights of the Old Republic, and then, you know, Mass Effect. And this new Expanse game kind of feels like Owlcat's Mass Effect. The trailer looks great, really captures the spirit of the show, and Owlcat has really stepped up their graphics game. I do have to remind myself that they aren't a small studio. As of 2023, they had 450 employees. The Expanse is a beloved sci-fi franchise. The show was great. I've heard excellent things about the books that the show is based on, and Owlcat knows how to make a great RPG. The format will be different for them, sure, but the bones, the core of the RPG, that's something they know through and through. Okay, we're gonna shift gears now. You'll get that in a minute. From space opera to steampunk chaos, we got a new trailer for Clockwork Revolution. Set in Avalon, 1895. This is a city where if you don't have a gang at your back, you've probably got a knife in it. The game puts you up against the iron-fisted rule of Lady Ironwood, who's been secretly altering key moments in the city's past to consolidate her power, like through time travel shenanigans. And now, through a very fortunate accident, you get access to the same time-altering powers. Your mission? Go back, rewrite the past, then sit back and watch the butterfly effects ripple across the present. The game looks incredibly ambitious. The trailer shows off fully voiced characters, overall AAA production values, time travel mechanics, which are always really tricky to pull off. And to top it all off, it's being developed by In Exile. We were just talking about how Owlcat are modern CRPG masters. Well, Brian Fargo's In Exile, they're veteran CRPG masters, right? Wasteland 2, Wasteland 3, Torment, Tides of Numenera, the Bard's Tale series. This game seems like their biggest project yet. I'm getting some Dishonored vibes, plus Bioshock Infinite, maybe a little Singularity for those who remember that underappreciated 2010 FPS. Next, we got a trailer for a piece of hardware that ended up incidentally also being a trailer for a game. Xbox announced a new device that's not quite an Xbox, but definitely wants you to think it is. The Rogue Xbox Ally and the Rogue Xbox Ally X coming this holiday season. These are premium handhelds built in partnership with Asus. They run Windows 11, but they're branded as Xbox devices. So technically not an Xbox console, but they've got Xbox-inspired controls, Xbox-focused UI, and are built to launch right into Xbox mode for a streamlined gaming experience. The regular Ally is rocking an AMD Ryzen Z2A processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 520GB SSD. It's aiming for balanced performance and battery life. Then the X model cranks things up with the Z2 Extreme chip, 24 gigs of high-speed RAM, and a full terabyte of SSD storage. And yes, the X also comes with sharper visuals and higher frame rates thanks to that AI-enhanced chip. Ultimately, this seems like an update to the 2023 Asus Rogue Ally that adds Xbox licensing on top of it, and overall it's definitely poised to compete with the Steam Deck and the Switch 2. Oh, and arguably the biggest surprise wasn't the device itself, but the fact that Hollow Knight Silksong will be playable on it at launch. That's right, at long last, we have a release window for Silksong, holiday 2025. Then we got a trailer for something completely different, and surprisingly delightful, Felt That Boxing. This one's from Saw Strings Studio, in collaboration with the wonderfully unhinged minds over at Stupid Buddy Studios. That's the folks behind Robot Chicken. And what they've cooked up is a puppet boxing game that's equal parts slapstick chaos and emotional gut punch. You play as Ezra Fuzzy Wright, a soft-hearted puppet with fists of felt and a dream to win the tournament of 1,000,000 punches and save his childhood orphanage. That's right, this game is more heart than most Oscar bait dramas. Gameplay-wise, this is physics-driven puppet combat. Think limbs flailing around in a glorious mess of fabric and googly eyes, while you throw wild haymakers with absolutely no concern for realism. It's Punch-Out meets Sesame Street, basically. Visually, the trailer is incredible. It's rendered in-game, but the puppets look so realistically like real-life puppets. This game came out of nowhere, and there's literally nothing else like it on the market. But that wasn't even the weirdest game trailer I saw. That title goes to No Ghosts at the Grand. This one's a cozy, spooky, musical mystery game where you inherit a rundown hotel called the Grand. Once, speaking of charm and hospitality, it's now, let's just say a fixer-upper. Your job is to restore the place room by room, solving puzzles, scrubbing away years of decay, and uncovering some very surreal, very supernatural secrets. The game starts off seeming like a story-driven power wash simulator, but then it takes a dive into H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu territory as suddenly you're platforming on flying eldritch books, dodging cosmic horror tendrils, riding boats through strange waters, and oh yeah, there's music and dancing, because of course there is. Oh, and there's a talking cat, so just based on that alone, it's already a Game of the Year contender. This one launches on Xbox and PC in 2026. Then we got the trailer for Beast of Reincarnation coming in 2026, day one on Xbox Game Pass. And this one is being developed by Game Freak. Yep, you would not have thought that from looking at the footage. Well, until you see the frame rate collapse as soon as gameplay starts, but hey. Game Freak, best known for their Pokemon games, is bringing us a gritty, post-apocalyptic action RPG set in a ruined Japan. You play as Emma, an outcast known as a Blighted One, journeying through a monstrous wasteland alongside her loyal dog companion, Ku. Together they explore a corrupt world full of dangerous creatures, eerie forests that burst out of the ground, and maybe some deeper existential dread, just wholesome pet owner bonding stuff. The gameplay centers on technical, demanding combat. A big shift from anything turn-based or family-friendly. Then we got a trailer for Grounded 2, which kicked off as an 80s commercial. I loved that. That was hilarious. The game's going to hit early access this summer, July 29th, on both Xbox and PC. Grounded is basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kids as a survival crafting game. And as far as that type of game, it was really well polished. And of course, it's made by Obsidian Entertainment to continue singing the praises of classic RPG studios. They even worked with Exile on Wasteland 2. Both studios made their own spiritual successors to Planescape Torment. In Exile's was Torment Tides of Numenera, and Obsidian's was Pillars of Eternity. Anyway, Obsidian is a great studio, Grounded was a great game, I expect Grounded 2 will be even greater. Then, Nintendo dropped a surprise announcement for Splatoon Raiders, a brand new Splatoon spin-off coming exclusively to the Nintendo Switch 2. This one looks like it takes the inky chaos in a new direction. You'll play as the Mechanic, teaming up with Deep Cut to explore the mysterious Spirulite Islands. Seems to kind of be like the survival crafting game Raft, but with more exploration elements. No release date yet, but it's clearly being positioned as a Switch 2 showcase title, so probably don't have to wait too long. They also released an update to Splatoon 3 this week out of nowhere that adds enhancements for Switch 2, as well as new stat tracking, a new weapon set, visual upgrades, and even a stage returning from Splatoon 1. Then we got a teaser trailer for Persona 4 Revival, which seemed to exist solely to confirm that yes, the leaks were true, the project exists, yes, it's coming, no, we won't tell you anything more at this point. Given the scarcity of anything concrete, it seems we're still a long ways out. I'd expect 2027 at the earliest, meaning Persona 6 could be like 2030 at this point. Then we unexpectedly got a trailer for a new Super Meat Boy sequel, and this time it's in 3D. This is the first major Meat Boy title since 2020's Super Meat Boy Forever. And while Edmund McMillan, the original creator of Meat Boy, he hasn't been involved with Team Meat for a while now, programmer Tommy Refens, who co-created Super Meat Boy, he's still around. I really do wonder how the game will translate to a 3D environment. Could work out great, could also be a disaster, but I got a good feeling about it. Super Meat Boy 3D is coming in 2026. Then we got a trailer for Code Vein 2, releasing in 2026. Code Vein, a sort of anime Souls-like, came out in 2019 to decent reviews, and then it kind of quietly faded into cult status. So to see Bandai Namco drop a full sequel announcement, definitely a surprise, but a welcome one for fans who saw potential in the first game's blend of moody post-apocalypse, anime aesthetic, and Souls-like mechanics. Code Vein 2 seems to be going for a grittier look, which I can see dividing fans of the clean anime aesthetic of the first game. And now for something a little more horrifying, the upcoming first-person horror game Ill dropped a trailer that's looking like a nightmare, and all the right ways. This is a realistic, physics-driven action horror game set in a grim, decaying fort that's been overtaken by some sort of mysterious, inhuman presence. Expect a heavy dose of body horror, unpredictable monster encounters, and a dismemberment system so visceral it's gonna make your stomach churn. In a good way, probably. Visually, Ill is one of the most striking new IPs shown this year. The monsters aren't your typical, like, demons or over-designed eldritch beasts. They're just, like, they're disturbing human-like monsters. Twisted, creepy, grotesque. Just enough to kind of hit that uncanny valley. Then we got a trailer for Mortal Shell 2 coming 2026 to Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox. You can even sign up for the beta right now over at mortalshell.com. This is a standalone sequel to Mortal Shell, which released back in 2020 and earned itself a solid reputation among Souls-like fans. The core idea returns here. You possess warrior shells, who are fallen champions, each with their own playstyles, and you use these shells to basically carve your way through a bleak, decaying world ruled by false gods. But Mortal Shell 2 is clearly raising the stakes by adding full-on guns. Then we got a trailer for LEGO Voyagers, a two-player co-op adventure that's all about exploring strange worlds, solving challenges, and, for once, maybe, actually building stuff out of LEGO. Yes, a LEGO game that is actually about LEGO, not just using LEGO as a skin to be something else. In fact, you actually play as a little LEGO brick as you navigate the world and build stuff. You can play split screen or online, and it's coming soon. And one of the best kinds of surprises, Lies of P Overture, just shadow dropped, and it's available now. This is a new expansion to the acclaimed Souls-like Lies of P, a game that took everyone off guard last year by asking the question, what if Pinocchio was a blood-soaked nightmare? And somehow delivering a genuinely fantastic answer. This expansion Overture dives into what came before the events of the base game. New horrors, new bosses, new twisted clockwork monstrosities, and of course, that same grotesque belle epoque aesthetic wrapped around some seriously unforgiving combat. Lots of Souls-likes overall. That's gonna wrap up this video, folks, but do be sure to check out last week's video in which we compared Diablo 4's anniversary event to Diablo Immortals. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.